The following program is intended for mature audiences.
A democratic republic of sports. The Sportsocracy with ESPN Asheville hosts Tank Spencer and Jeremy Greene.
And welcome into the Wicked Weed studio. I'm Tank Spencer. He's Jeremy Greene. Draft prep continuing here in the Sportsocracy. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you get all of your draft prep leading up to the big day. Thursday night at 7 o'clock. Our live draft coverage will begin here in the Wicked Weed studio all 3 days of the NFL draft. Rolling through the team-by-team 7-round mock drafts, we got the Baltimore Ravens. What will the Ravens do? They've got 2 picks at the bottom of the first round. However, trade alert. We've got one here. Baltimore Ravens trading the 27th and 31st picks in the first round to the New York Giants to move up to 11 in return. Obviously, they get the 11th pick. They also get pick 116 down in the 4th round. And with moving up to number 11, they get the wide receiver that is on there at the top of their board, Devontae Smith out of Alabama, the Heisman Trophy winner.
A little skinny. That's obviously never bothered Baltimore. I think it's a myth that they need receivers they can block because they play so heavy so often. There is a huge drop-off from Devontae Smith to the rest of the receivers in this class. And before you tell me, oh, they've got Sammy Watkins and James Proche, and none of them are Devontae Smith. None of them. If you want to get a number 1 receiver for Lamar Jackson, that's how you do it. And I think this is a guy that could legitimately help him. He's been good throwing to tight ends, and Devontae Smith is a route technician. I was trying to figure out why Baltimore talked to Devontae Smith. I couldn't get my mind around it when I got the list of virtual meetings and things like that. As soon as the Orlando Brown trade happened, I went, got it.
That's it.
And if he falls to 11, the Giants, who are desperately trying to trade down, and the Ravens, who would do well to trade both ones to the Giants to get Devontae Smith, I think it's a match made in heaven.
2 picks in the 3rd round for the Baltimore Ravens at 94th overall. A wide receiver, another one, this one out of Auburn, Anthony Schwartz.
He's a freak of nature, and they love fast receivers. Do I think they're going to start with 2 receivers? No, not really. Is Anthony Schwartz a guy that I know definitively they've been in on? And I was a little shocked he was still here when they came up the second time? Yes. They're going to build around Lamar Jackson. They've already said we're picking up the 5th-year option. Oh, we're far apart on the long-term deal. Oh, you'll figure it out because you're stuck with Lamar Jackson. So if you want him to be a productive quarterback in the first 3 to 4 years of this new deal, you're going to have to give him weapons. Sammy Watkins is constantly hurt. There's a reason that damn near no other team in the NFL wanted him. And there's a reason he's on his 4th team in, 7 years? Because you can't stay healthy. You're going to have legitimate weapons. I think DuVernay is decent enough, but he's not Anthony Schwartz. Anthony Schwartz has actual big boy, talent, route running ability, and he's just mind-bogglingly fast.
No more Matthew Judon, no more Yannick Ngakoue. They get a defensive end here at 104. Edge rusher Patrick Johnson out of Tulane.
The length on him is what gets him because he's 6'3", 255, but he has short arms. This guy reminds me of Carl Lawson, a guy that Ravens fans will remember from his time with the Bengals. I think he can be that level of pass rusher standing up. I think he has that ability. He's an athletic guy. I'm a big fan of the tape on this guy. He's one of those guys that you see that's reckless, but not reckless to a stupid point. Doesn't wind up out of plays. He's just a bat out of hell coming off the edge, and I think he would be tremendous in Baltimore.
With the 116th pick, this is the other pick that they picked up in the New York Giants trade. You got them taking James Hudson, tackle out of Cincinnati. This is a guy that I've been seeing a lot more about over the last week leading up to this draft. He's apparently climbing up a lot of boards.
As well you should, because he's super raw. He played 1 year at offensive tackle. He was a defensive lineman. They converted him. And I'm going to be honest with you, there were times that he looked like a defensive lineman that had been converted to the offensive side. I think the raw skills on this guy are crazy. He's very smooth. His feet show that he has at some point played defense because he has very fluid feet, very much the enforcer type. He's going to have to learn to stop lunging. And slides are not something huge for him. I feel like this is a guy that can play quicker than you think. And it seems like a lot of scouts are starting to agree with me. I like James Hudson. I think he is a tackle. I think he's one of the few guys that I look at but end of day 2, beginning of day 3 that can be a legitimate starting tackle in the NFL.
The Ravens own 3 picks in the 5th round at 131. Ardarius Washington, the safety out of Texas Christian.
This is a guy that was in the 2nd round discussion at one point. He's too little. Just flat out, he's too little. But I'll tell you what he can be. If Ardarius Washington was 6'1", 210, he'd have been a top 15 pick in this draft. He'd been the number 1 safety, it's no doubt, because he's a better player than Trevon Moehrig. Unfortunately, I don't know how he's going to translate to the NFL because he's only 5'8", $180. So he's very, very little for a safety. Worst case scenario, he's a slot corner. Best case scenario, he's the Baltimore Ravens version of Tyrann Mathieu, and I think he can be that. I think he's that talented of a player.
But how much does that matter when the receivers are getting faster and smaller? Don't you want your secondary players to get faster and smaller?
Baltimore's the best drafting team in the NFL. It's not close. If this kid's on the board at this point, he will be a Baltimore Raven.
At tight end with 171, Briley Moore out of Kansas State.
There's a whole damn lot of him, like a whole lot. He has eaten a few McDonald's cheeseburgers in his life.
Okay.
6'4", 250, thick kid. Has the ability to – he's a pretty good receiver. And I look – a lot of people say, oh, well, to be a tight end in Baltimore, you have to be a good blocker. Well, Mark Andrews is not. Mark Andrews is not a plus blocker. He's a net neutral blocker. And I look at a guy like Briley Moore that had a really good year at Kansas State, high receiving grade. He's going to be a specific kind of team fit because he's about a net average run blocker. But he's a really good receiver. You notice how I keep trying to put weapons around Lamar Jackson? It's because he's about to get paid a whole damn shitload of money. I can't tell you how much it's going to be, but I'll bet you it's no less than 4 whole shitloads. He will get 0.75 shitloads per year, minimum.
Well, we know he's getting 23 for the 5th-year option that has already been guaranteed by his head coach, John Harbaugh. So, yeah, put cheap young talent around him. I see what you're doing here. At 184, Ambry Thomas, cornerback out of Michigan.
I wish I could have seen more from him. The height, weight, speed on him, 6 foot, 185. I like a lot of the fluidity of this kid. He's very fast. There's just not a lot of burst. And he's a guy that strikes me as we need to get him into a good defensive system. Who has a good Baltimore has a good defensive system. I love this kid here. I mean, there's a lot of people that Ambry Thomas is another one of those that has different grades. There's people that think he could go 7th round, undrafted free agent. There's others that think he could go the beginning of day 3. I didn't see anything on tape that tells me he's going to be a beginning of day 3 kind of guy, but I see a lot of physical play, good tackler that I look at and go, this is a guy that Baltimore could convert to safety. This is a guy Baltimore could probably just teach to play corner and eventually replace one of the high-priced guys when they move off from them, because that's what Baltimore does. They never overpay you, and they never pay you past your prime. This is a guy I think could be a player in the NFL.
All right, their final pick comes at 210 in the 6th round. Jonathan Marshall, defensive tackle out of Arkansas.
What's that thing I always tell you I can't teach you to be?
A house.
Yeah, he's a house. He's 6'3", 317. This is a guy that I actually think can play on the outside in a 3-4, which is super rare in this class. He comes off the ball. The ball snapped, and this dude just gets shot out of a cannon. And the problem with him is that he can, like Tank Sex Life, he can't do it for a long period of time. He comes out like a bat out of hell, and then 2 plays later, it looks like he just ran the Boston City Marathon. So you get him into a high-level NFL. You didn't like that, did you? You get him into a high-level NFL conditioning program. Get him, really working in the weight room. Because I'll be honest with you, there were times that I don't know that there's a player in this draft class that I saw his weight fluctuate more. And this is projection. I don't claim to be, a fair weight reader or anything like that. But there are times that it looked like he was playing about 340 last year. I mean, and usually players over the course of the year, they get thinner. He seemed to get bigger. And that tells me that the eating habits are probably not great. The weight room's probably not great. So you put him with a team that I know has a really good foundation, it's a really good organization, and I think you could get a lot out of this kid. He has late round gym written all over him.
Join us here for all of the picks throughout the NFL draft. We will be live in the Wicked Weed studio all 3 days, starting at 7 o'clock on Thursday night. Subscribe to the channel, get your access to all of the draft prep videos, including each and every one of these 7-round mock drafts, team by team. We got the helpful playlist there for every team in the NFL, so share it with your friends. Tell them to come check us out and find out who their team is going to pick in this upcoming draft. Again, all 3 days live here in the Wicked Weed studio. I'm Tank Spencer, and he's Jeremy Greene.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.